My name is Adam, and I'm a heroin addict. I believe I was an addict before I picked up a drug. My first addiction was video games. I would play them nonstop all night, obsess about them when I wasn't playing them, dream about them when I was sleeping, and not, I couldn't put them down. My friends could put them down, play for a couple hours, get bored. I would play for 8 hours and still want to play more. And then life happens, and, junior high, I start smoking weed, and just harmless weed, I thought at the time. Little did I know, is opening a door to, a whole different lifestyle. And after weed, started, drinking with friends, and this is into high school, partying a lot, smoking weed before school, dabbling in like cocaine and ecstasy and mushrooms, doing all that kind of things, not thinking anything of it, just thinking I was, young, having fun, doing what high school age kids do. And it slowly progressed into trouble. In my junior year of high school, I got high before school. A teacher smelled it on me, and they searched my vehicle, and they found 5 pipes and a bottle of vodka in my car. So that's really the first time in my life I had any real consequences when I was using any kind of drugs. And so I got kicked out of that school, went to an alternative school for a semester, and met more people like me who liked to party and, did the same things I did, drank and smoked weed and, just liked to hang out. And so after that semester, I got to go back to my regular school, my high school, and I didn't change. I didn't think that was just a one-time thing. It was, I just not gonna keep a bunch of stuff in my car anymore. I'm still gonna smoke. I'm still gonna drink, and so I did. I still continued on doing what I was doing. Didn't affect my school all that much. I got good grades. I graduated with a 3.8 from high school, so it wasn't like it made my life unmanageable, like academically. Looking back, it was kind of crazy, 16, 17, snorting cocaine, drinking absurd amounts of alcohol, and always wanting more. That was the thing. I always wanted more. I was the guy at the party to start drinking in the beginning and be the last one awake drinking at the end. If it was there to drink, I was going to drink it until it was gone, and then I was going to find ways to get more, regardless of what time it was or, what kind of drug it was. And so, second semester, my high school year, senior year, my girlfriend got pregnant. So, that kind of threw a curveball into my life plans per se. And, I'd planned on going down to U of A for a pharmacy to become a pharmacist. And, I forego that opportunity and elect to stay in the Valley in Gilbert and, get an apartment out of high school and, do the family thing. And my girlfriend, she knew who I was when we got together, and like she wanted me to stop doing all the partying and everything because we're having a kid. She wanted me to grow up. Mind you, I'm 18 years old. I've just started living my life, and so I say I'm gonna do that, and I still sneak around drinking, smoking weed all the time. Now it's like Somas because you can take a Soma and feel drunk, but you don't smell like you've been drinking alcohol. So I was doing that. I was working full time. So my baby was born on September 21st, 2007, and I was in the hospital for 3 days, and we had to induce the labor, and so I was there with her. It was like the happiest moment of my life, and everything was great and awesome. And then we take the baby home, and the first thing I do, when I get home, is I call a buddy over, and we get high on my balcony, and that's how I use. I use when I'm sad to feel better, and I use when I feel good just to feel better. I use just to feel better, regardless of the situation, regardless of the consequences. And so I'm working as a cook at this time at a Payway, and I realize you can't really support a family working as a cook at a little Asian restaurant. So I decided I'm going to go back to school to be a pharmacy tech. So I enroll in Apollo College for the pharmacy tech program, and we moved back in with my mom because it's easier for me not to have to worry about paying bills or anything, so I can work and go to school, and she can be at home taking care of the baby, doing that thing. And all was fine and well for the first 4 or 5 months living at my mom's house, and then my baby's mama moves out. She doesn't get along with my mom too well, and moves in with her grandparents. And I elected not to go over to live with her grandparents, thinking it would just blow over and everything would be fine, and it wasn't. She started dating some other guy, and then I was really free, and then I really I really had a sense of freedom that I hadn't had since like I was a junior in high school. I had, no girlfriend really to tie me down. I didn't have a baby I had to really take care of because, he's not around, and, I'm working full time, going to school full time, and then partying full time. I could do whatever without having to be accountable to anybody, I could stay out all night drinking, partying all night, and, go to school the next morning and then go to work and do it all over again. And no one was there to tell me not to. And so that's what I did. And, I graduated Apollo College with the 4.0, and didn't affect, any of my academics. I got a pharmacy tech certification. I got licensed. And so, I'm working as a pharmacy tech, and I'm 19, and we have a Christmas party for this hospital I work at, and I get belligerent. I drink Jack and Coke, and it's open bar, so they just, I would just go up there and I'd get, Jack and Coke every couple minutes, because the way I drink to get fucked up. I don't drink because I like the way it tastes. I drink because I like the way it makes me feel. I was told that I was walking, we were leaving, me and my buddy were leaving, and I bumped into some guy on the stairs and started arguing back and forth. I thought it was cool because I spoke a little Spanish, so I was yelling at him in Spanish. This guy spoke fluent Spanish, and it was just a big mess I heard. And so I don't really know what happened that night. It was just chalk it up to being a blacked out drunk, on whiskey, and being, mean, because when I drink whiskey I get angry, and it's that's happened a lot. I got in a lot of fights when I was drinking. I was hard-headed. I wouldn't take no for an answer. Like, if you made me mad, like, we're gonna fight it. I've done many hours of anger management classes and, alcohol classes. I got a DUI, and I still didn't think I had a problem. I didn't think there was anything wrong with what I was doing. I got a DUI, and I still would continue to drink and drive. I didn't have an excuse. I just thought, I'm gonna use my blinkers this time because I didn't use them last time. I'm gonna obey all the laws because I know how to get away with it. And I knew that before I got my first DUI, but luckily enough, I didn't get another one, and I should have gotten many. And so, I lose that job at that hospital, but I get another job a few months later at a different hospital, and it's about this time I get introduced into OxyContins, OxyContin 80s at the time. I work in the pharmacy field. I know like the dangers of like opiate medication and how addictive they are, and one day I tried one, not even really thinking about the consequences, and not really looking at my past, how everything I do I abuse to like, the best of my ability, for lack of a better terminology. And the first time I did it, I fell in love. I snorted that line and I started puking instantly, but that was the feeling I was looking for. That was getting outside of my feelings, far enough away for all the stupid shit that I'd done, like not trying to make it work with my baby's mama, all kinds of different things, not going to college, whatever it was at the time that I thought I needed to run away from. That was what I was searching for. That was the high that got me far enough away from me that I was okay. I was okay being me when I was high on OxyContin. And it doesn't take long until, I got a full-blown addiction to OxyContin. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm smoking weed if other people have it because I'm only spending my money on OxyContin, But the FDA does away with the OxyContin 80s. They make them so you can't really break them down anymore. They take the OCs and make them into OPs. And so there goes my, my snorting ability, and when you eat them, you don't really get the same effect because it doesn't hit you all at once. They're like slow release, and it gets you high over extended like 12 hours as opposed to getting high like instantly, and then just being just like high out of your gourd, just like, and so now, I gotta find the next best thing, which is Percocet 30s, and that, having, snorting 4 or 5 OxyContin 80s a day, having to go to 30s, you're having to snort like 10 to 12 a day just to reach the same amount of levels in your system, and I'm still working as a pharmacy tech, and I'm strung out on OxyContin, and I work in a hospital, and so I start stealing here and there, I start, pocketing a few, here and there when I can, and, I got money, so I'm not really hurting on money, but when the opportunity is available, I'm pocketing that, fentanyl, like pop, I'll take one of those, any kind of opiate. I was just, any opiate that would make me feel not me, because for me, I didn't feel comfortable being me, I didn't feel right in my skin, I didn't want to feel me. I wanted to feel high. I wanted to not feel anything, And so then, story goes along and my dealer gets popped, and me and my brother have a big falling out, so I have like no way of getting any kind of Percocets or anything, and so and I lose my job. They have suspicions that I'm stealing. They didn't catch me with anything, but they wanted to drug test me, and like I knew I would fail, but I had fake pee in my car, so I was trying to like sneak out to my car to grab it so I can go past this UA, and they said since I walked out of the office, I was fired, and even that wasn't enough to make me quit. Even losing that job wasn't enough to make me quit, and I just, I blamed it on them. It was everybody else's fault but my own. It was nothing to do with me. It was nothing to do with my drug habit. Nothing to do with that I was stealing from the hospital. Nothing to do that I was, showing up late to work because I was sick or anything like that. It was, they singled me out. They just don't like me and this and that. It was not my fault when clearly it was all my fault. It was completely my fault. And so, I lose that job, and then I just get this bright idea that I can't work in like a setting where there's, pills around me. So I find a job at a home health pharmacy. So it's just like we deliver like IV bags for patients at home who need like nurses to come hook up like antibiotics and stuff like that. So that's what I do. And, and at this point I have such a bad habit that I can't really go more than like 6, 7, 8 hours without, getting a fix. And I can't save anything for my life. I can buy 10 pills in a day and say I'm going to save 4 for the morning to get me through my shift, and I wake up in the morning with none, and so I'm working in Tempe. My dealer lives pretty close, and I would leave work. I'd get to work at like 10, take my lunch break at like noon, and be gone to like 1:30. And they caught on real quick. I worked there for like 8 months, and finally they realized that this kid's disappearing for hours every day. And just going, and so I lose that job mainly because I was disappearing for hours on a time, and working in an office setting. They don't like when you swear a lot, and I got a really bad mouth, and so that was the last time I worked as a pharmacy tech. Because while I was working there, this is the insanity of the disease right here. I was working as a pharmacy tech. I know all the laws of the pharmacy, and I couldn't find pills one day, and I got this bright idea. Me and this guy I know to, forge a prescription in my name for some Percocets and take it into the pharmacy and, turn it over to the pharmacy tech, the person doing my job, and think everything's gonna be okay. And I'm sitting there, waiting for it to be filled, and here comes two, Mesa police officers walking in, and at that moment I knew I was screwed. So, I get arrested, I get taken down, 4th Avenue, I get booked in, class 4 felony for fraud. And, this is, other than my DUI and some fights I'd been in, this is like the only trouble I've gotten in for drugs. And so, I bailed out, and, I went to my court date and signed a plea. And once I got my car, I went to the dealer's house and, picked up again. Anybody who's been to jail and, has been kicking drugs, like that's like the absolute worst. There's nothing worse than that, being locked in like a cell and, shitting yourself and throwing up. Like it's not, where you want to be. And even that pain wasn't enough to make me want to quit, it just made me want to, I just obsessed the whole time I was in there. When I was getting out, calling my buddies, seeing when they're going to bail me out so I could like plan to go to the dope man's house and pick up some more pills. And so I lose that job at that pharmacy, and now like I'm strapped for cash. Like I'm not really working anymore. I can hustle up and sell some pills because I got people who want them and people who have them. And so that's what I do for a long time. And it comes a day where I can't find any pills. I'm unable. I can't. None of my guys have them. No one's got anything. And I call up a buddy that I used to sell to, hasn't called me up in a while, and he's like, I can't get any pills, but I'll get you some heroin. And this was another line I told myself I was never going to cross. I said I was never going to do heroin. Pills are one thing, and in all reality, they're just synthetic heroin. And so I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm good. And a couple hours later, I'm starting to get more sick, and call my buddy back up, and I'm like, can you still get me that? And he's like, yeah. So, I get it, and I smoke it, and, I only buy a 20 sack, and and it was amazing to me that I could get high on $20 again. The fact that I was spending like $150 on pills a day, that $20 worth of heroin can get me high. And then I was hooked. I was hooked not only because I got high on $20, but I got higher on $20 than I did on $150. And that's kind of where my life started to take a turn for the worse. So now I'm not really working. I'm hustling. I'm stealing. I'm doing all this so I can get my drugs. I find a job working as a cook, and my first paycheck goes straight to heroin. And so I'm just, I'm in the struggle, and it doesn't take long for my mom to realize that, something's wrong. And she comes to me and confronts me, and I admit, I've been doing heroin, and I need help. And, in hindsight, I only really went to get help to kind of appease her. At this point, it didn't matter. I had to have it. I didn't want to have it. I had to have it. It ceased to be a luxury. Now it was a necessity. I had to have it to function. I couldn't do anything without it. And I would do whatever I had to do to get it. Whether that was, steal from my mom, steal from my little sister, pawn all my stuff, pawn all their stuff, whatever I had to do, walk into Walmart, walk into Home Depot, and, steal whatever, the dope man wanted so I could, get my fix. And so this is, it's a terrible existence. I'm so full of like shame and guilt and remorse of like where my life is, but I can't stop, so I check into a detox facility, and under the idea that, it's just the opiates, it's just the heroin and the Percocet that's my problem, and so I go through detox and into IOP, and I just think if I quit doing the opiates, I can still smoke weed and drink, because that's not my problem. I didn't have a problem when I was smoking weed and drinking. I could work, I didn't lose jobs smoking weed and drinking. And so I went through IOP, and, I was still smoking weed and drinking when I was in the IOP, but they didn't, catch me because I skirted the system. Because it was like a pharmacy tech background, I know like the levels of so I'd smoke a whole bunch of weed before I went for my first test so I could, keep smoking. My levels would still go down. And so, I managed to stay clean for like 5 months off the opiates, but I'm still smoking and drinking. And, I don't have a job at this point. And, but I got still people who call me looking for drugs, and I still have people who I know who have drugs. So I think I can sell drugs and not do drugs, and, I worked for maybe the first 2 people who I got some drugs for until the first guy offered me some. And without hesitation, I was right back into it. It was just, there was no should I not. It was yes, I will. That's perfect. Like I just made some money off you, and now you're gonna get me high. That was my thinking, and I didn't think anything of it. And I'm off to the races all over again, doing all the stuff I said I'd never do again, all over again. And that lands me back in the same detox and same IOP, but I don't graduate this IOP this time. But I do manage to find another job. And it's another cooking job, and it's at a steakhouse, and it's good money. It's lots of hours, and I figured like I could just stay away from the opiates again. I could still drink and smoke weed and just stay away from the opiates, because my life did get better when I was off the opiates, and it didn't last. I got paid again, and sure enough, first thing I do is I go and pick up. But this time I learned how to shoot heroin. When I was in IOP, I met a guy who said that's the way to do it, and I was curious, and I felt like I was smoking so much of it, and if I could shoot maybe a quarter of what I was smoking and still get high, it would be okay. And that's kind of what it was. I could get high on $20 again, by shooting it, as opposed to smoking a gram a day, and just being okay. And so I start shooting it, and it's like, and once I started shooting heroin, it was the beginning of the end. It didn't take long for me to hit my rock bottom, and so I'm working in a kitchen, drinking, smoking. My dope dealers dropping off stuff to the restaurant. I'm going in the bathroom and shooting up, and it's just it's a big to do, because I worked out far. I worked out in Apache Junction, out at the base of Superstition Mountain, and it wasn't any way to live, and but I was perfectly okay with it at the time, which is odd to say that looking back, and so, once I've been shooting heroin for a little while, I got into that kind of scene with those kind of people, and one of my dealers, he also sold meth, so one day he just said, "You want to try a little bit of meth in your shot?" And so he, sprinkled a little meth in my spoon, and that was one of the first times I ever did a speedball, and that was a whole new experience in and of itself. And I was never one on the uppers. I liked the downers. I liked the depressants. I didn't like, I liked to numb my feelings out. I didn't like to, ramp them up and feel everything. And so, I would dabble with, meth here and there, and when I couldn't find heroin, I'd get meth just to kind of make it through the day, because if I'm kicking dope at work, I'm not going to be able to work very well, but if I'm high on meth, I can work like a champion, and so that's kind of how I made it through work, was getting high, and it didn't really affect my work all that much. Like, my production was good, the bosses were happy with me, but they knew something was off. Like, they could tell something was wrong, and it was 8:30 at night. We closed at 8. I had just got high in the bathroom, so I could close down, and just be chill. And then they set a table of 6 at 8:30, and so I was pissed, I just did, got my fix, and I was just ready to chill and relax and have, hour to clean and then go home. And so I didn't say anything, I didn't yell at anybody. I just slammed the spoon down in the mashed potatoes kind of hard, and my boss was standing right here, and he's like, just go. So I left thinking he wanted me to leave, but. And, I had history with this boss. I worked with him my first job, and he had found some weed on me and had got me fired. So he kind of knows about, kind of my history and how I smoke weed, and, but I don't think he realized what extent I was taking the drug use to now. And so that was, kind of the end of my run. I lost that job, and I got a job with another guy, and I was pretty much just working for heroin. Like, he was like my heroin connect, and we weren't selling heroin. We were actually doing work. We were installing Ansel systems in restaurants, the fire suppressant systems in restaurants, and I would work, and all the money I make that day would go right to getting high, and at this point my mom just kicked me out because I'd steal from her and take things back she's bought from the store, find the receipts, take them back so I'd go get high, pawn all my stuff, whatever I had left and whatever I didn't have. I'd pawn my sister's video cameras, her laptops, anything I could to get high. And that's not who I am as a person, but that's who I am as the addict. And that's where my disease takes me, to do things like that. And so I get kicked out of my mom's, and I go move in with my buddy I used to work with, and same thing. I'm stealing from him, stealing from his mom, and I get this bright idea to go to Texas to clean myself up, because it's Arizona. It's the people, it's the surroundings, it's the environment that's bad for me. This is what I thought. And then 24 hours later, I'm getting kicked out of my grandparents' house for stealing, and I'm drunk and I'm high. And so here I am in Texas, and 1,400 miles away from home, and I stay in a hotel that night and start driving back, and I'm driving back, and it's been a little while since I got high, so I'm starting to get kind of dope sick, and stop in Albuquerque. My one buddy got me a hotel in Albuquerque, and I walk in at midnight, sick as shit, and going from the hot shower to the cold bed to the hot shower to the cold bed, and I start doing the math of it's like if I leave here at 3, it's like a 6-hour drive. The dope man opens at 9. I can get there right when he opens. So I check out of the hotel at 3 in the morning, get back on the road. No sleep, dope sick as shit. And I don't make it but an hour and a half outside of Albuquerque, right outside of Gallup, New Mexico, and my car breaks down on the side of the road. And I do what every boy does, and calls his mom, and it's like, Mom, my car's broke down. Can you find me a tow truck driver, And so she finds me a tow truck driver, and he says he'll be there in 30 minutes. He's right down the road, and 3 hours later he shows up, and those 3 hours was a lot of soul searching. I was in the middle of nowhere, and the last thing my grandpa said before I left his house was, I hope I see you get better before I die. And those words really stuck out to me, because my grandpa's an older gentleman, and I I have a lot of respect for him. And so I'm sitting here on the side of the road. I got no radio because I'm in the middle of nowhere. You know, I got just a phone that makes calls and texts, so I got no like video games to play or anything, and I'm just sitting there like contemplating like where my life is and like where it could have been, and you know where I went wrong, and I've never really been suicidal at all in my life, you know, besides the fact I was shooting heroin. Like, yes, these people could say that's, you know, suicidal, but that's, for me, like, that's more like the rent-a-sitter suicide plan. That's not so much like jumping in front of a semi going 75, which I thought was, you know, would have been a painless, easy way out, you know, and I didn't do that. Obviously, I'm sitting here today, and the tow truck driver shows up, and he was a gift. He was a gift from a higher power, and he, you know, my car is screwed. I need a new engine. Takes me back to a truck stop, and then this guy there, he introduces me to the owner, and the owner can tell, you know, I don't look good, so he like buys me breakfast, and you know, and offers to take me back to Gallup, New Mexico, and gets me on a Greyhound bus to Phoenix. And I'm only going to Phoenix because that's home. You know, I can't go to my mom's, my brothers, my sisters, any of my friends. You know, no one wants nothing to do with me at this point because they know what I'm about. And so as I'm on the Greyhound bus, you know, going back to Phoenix, I get a call from my brother, my older brother, and he's like, you know, what happened? And I told him, you know, what happened, and he's like, well, you know, you can come to my house and stay here tonight as long as you check into treatment the next day. And this was May 27, 2014, and I get into Phoenix at 4:30, and I have my connection pick me up from the Greyhound bus stop, and you know, I got a little bit of money left, and you know, I buy a little bit of heroin, and he drops me off on, you know, country club in the 60, and my other buddy picks me up, and don't make it to my brother's house until like 11:30 at night. And I was just getting high for, you know, 7 hours straight. And, you know, that was the last time I got high. You know, I walk into my brother's house really, really high, and I get offered, you know, some Xanax because they hear I have trouble sleeping. So, you know, I take a couple Xanax, but I would have had no trouble sleeping. But that's my problem, is I'm addicted to more. You know, whatever you want, whatever you have, I want. You know, I want more, and I want more of this and more of that. You know, I'm going to do whatever you have and then do what I have. And so the next day, you know, my plan is to go check into a rehab center. And I've done outpatient, I've done detox and outpatient, and that, you know, I mean, it might have worked had I been willing to do it. I just didn't have the willingness to actually do it, and I wasn't ready. At first, I go to Banner Behavioral in Scottsdale, and they're full, so they turn me away. And I go back to my brothers, and I'm calling the insurance company and figuring out what facilities, you know, are in network with my insurance and where I can go. And you know, I'm starting to get sick at this point, and end up just saying I'm going to go to Community Bridges. And as I'm sitting at Community Bridges, you know, filling out the paperwork, I get a call from Valley Hospital, and they said they have an opening. You know, so I call my brother back up, and he picks me up, and we go to Valley Hospital, and you know, I do my detox there, and I really, really want to do inpatient. You know, I want the help. I'm desperate. You know, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and so after my 7-day detox at Valley Hospital, you know, I go to Calvary, and you know, it's a 30-day program, you know, and I check into there. I got, you know, 6 days, whatever, 7 days, and you know, I'm there, and I'm doing everything they want me to do. Like I'm doing what they want. I get a sponsor. I work the first 3 steps. You know, I'm doing all my work. I'm attending the meetings. I'm actively participating in like my counseling and my therapy, and you know, and my insurance cuts me out after like 14 days. And you know, I made it through my first 3 steps at this point, and my brother had found a place called A Better Today in Scottsdale, or in Vegas. They had some houses in Vegas, and you know, my counselor wants me to go to like a sober living facility and do PHP through Calvary, and you know, and I know I'm not ready. I got 20 days at this point, you know, and I talk to the insurance lady on the phone, and I tell her, like, if you know, kick me out of here today, I'm gonna go get high and check right back in, because you know, that's the mentality I had. Like, you know, it's your fault. You know, it's this insurance company's fault that I'm gonna go get high. And you know, thankfully, you know, I took a second, and this is like the first time I ever really prayed in my life. I sat down, and I was like, God, show me where you want me to go, sober living, ABT, sober living, or ABT up in Vegas. And so the next morning, I wake up and I get a message that my brother had called and to call him back. And sure enough, a couple kids got in a fight in the Scottsdale houses out here at ABT in Scottsdale. And, I have an opening. And so, I worked there for a year, and, I get all kinds of like material things. I get a car, I get an apartment, I get a cell phone, I get all these things. But, somewhere along the lines, I get these immaterial things. I get this peace of mind, I get this serenity, I get this acceptance of myself. I worked all my steps, and sponsoring guys, and I'm being of service, I'm chairing meetings, I'm doing all these things, and then, it dawns on me that I'm not even thinking about getting high anymore. And for someone like me to go through a whole day and not think about getting high, it's, that's a miracle. I'm outside of treatment, but, I've worked through my steps and everything's going good, and, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for what's coming next, what's gonna fuck up. And, it's just because, I get sober, it doesn't mean everything gets easier. And, I still, I go through hard times, financial issues, driving on suspended license tickets, because, you get clean doesn't mean you get smart, and, things are better. Like today, I don't have to worry about getting high, I can walk through heartache, I can walk through financial troubles, I can walk through whatever I'd have to walk through, and not get high. I got a core group of friends around me that are gonna be there for me because they want to be there for me, not because of what I can get them. And I'm the same way. I want to be around them. I don't need to be, I don't need anything from them besides their company. I work in a treatment facility now, and I really thoroughly enjoy what I do. The biggest thing for me is, building my life around my recovery, not the other way around, building my recovery around my life. I have to remember that, the first thing I put in front of my recovery is the second thing I'm going to lose. And if I put, my job in front of my recovery, I'm going to lose that. Say I put my kid in front of my recovery, I'm going to lose him, And as long as I maintain those 5 things that, ABT taught me, I continue to go to meetings. I try to go to a meeting a day, even though I'm coming up on like 18 months clean. I have a sponsor, I have a home group, I have a service commitment, and, I'm working the steps. And as long as I continue to do these things, that I've learned, and I don't pick up no matter what, because you can't get loaded if you don't pick up, hopefully I'll get another day clean, because all I have is today. I can't worry about tomorrow. People who die today had plans for tomorrow. So I have to focus on living in the present and not freaking out about things that are yet to come. And everything happens for a reason. Life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself. You don't have to have drugs to be okay. I know it feels that way, and I know there's heartache and trouble and all kinds of disappointment that you feel within yourself, but there is a new way to live. You can be happier than you could ever imagine. You can have fun. You can do what you want to do without the use of drugs. You can enjoy life the way life's intended to be enjoyed. You can, sit there on your patio and, listen to the birds and not be worrying about, dope man calling, and calling 5 different people like 100 times trying to get, whatever you want. And today I have this freedom. I have a freedom from active addiction. I don't have to, live that kind of lifestyle anymore. And it's the biggest blessing. And, I'm 26, and, I'm thankful that I got it when I did. And it's not the hardest thing to do, but it is very difficult to actually take that step. But, the first step in trying to solve a problem is admitting that there is a problem. And if you even are hesitant about having a problem, you have to ask yourself if you have a problem. You probably have a problem. The answer is probably yes, I have a problem. And there's many outlets that can help you. I attend 12-step meetings. I'm a firm believer that's the only thing that I did differently this time than any other time is work a 12-step program. And maintain complete abstinence from all mind and mood altering substances, and just give yourself a break. Don't be too hard on yourself. There's no shame in being addicted. It's a disease. You're not going to shame somebody for having diabetes. Don't shame yourself for being an addict. And there's plenty of help out there if you're willing to find it.